All right, guys. I don't know much about Lily Tino, but there's a lot of talk about her doing kind of things that are not good, that are not very good for the trans community or whatever, right? I'm not trans. I'm not going to say I'm trans because I'm a cisgender male. I dress up as a woman. I look like a supermodel. I look very, very good. But these things are, like I think for the most part, most people in the trans community and in the regular society, because a lot of people don't really worry about trans people. I mean, and the things that people say about trans people, when someone like Lily Tino demonstrates that the things that people that are rude about it say, it's just like, oh, I see, right? But like for me, I'm not even trans, right? So when people say all these crazy things about me because they see me as a trans person or whatever, right? And some people want to date me, of course, that's fine too, but that's fine, obviously. But when people say, oh, you do this because you're, the way you look, right? And I'm not even trans, right? So I mean, for me, I just think, to say that to someone when you don't even know them and you don't know anything about them and you just like it's a strange thing to do, right? And we all know what I'm talking about, right? But it's a strange thing to do. But when you have someone who's Latino who makes it seem like that's what trans people do, I don't think people are like, oh, Latino does that, I'm guessing that's what trans people do. But some people will take that and say, oh, all trans people are like that now because Latino is proof, right? But we don't know if, I don't know if Latino's done actually anything illegal. Um, but I think people are like, Lily Tino did that, so now we could blame Marco for the same thing, right? And now it's justified, whereas before Marco's like, huh, like why are you saying that? Like obviously it's not true, right? So you have to remember like some of the things that are said, about kids or whatever. It's like, well, I mean, personally for me, I plan on having kids, and the kids that I know don't think that way, and they wouldn't think that way based on what I do or who I am, right? And I'm a good-looking man, a good-looking woman, so obviously I'm like with adults all the time, right? So I just feel like the whole thing about that it just goes out the window, and you would think it would be clear, right? Like most people are like looking at me, they're like, my goodness, you look so good looking. Obviously, you probably just date so much or whatever. Obviously, adults. You would think that would be the obvious thing that people would think, right? So like when Lily Tino does something where it's like people are like, oh, the trans community does this, and I'm not even trans, but the trans community does this or whatever, right? You can't do that with a whole group of people. It's just like saying, how when priests were told they were doing that for years, not every priest did that, right? Even though, like Anderson Cooper was saying, a lot of priests were accused of that kind of crime. So, and they did do it. Like they actually did do it. Most trans people would never, right? But these people actually did do those things, right? So, Lily Tino, of course they're going to jump on it, but you can't, somebody does a crime and they represent a certain group because they're part of that group. You can't blame the whole group on that crime, even if you were saying that about that group anyway, right? I mean, for me, I just think that somebody that blames you for something is guilty of something, right? I mean, that's what I think. I don't think that it's normal to accuse someone of doing something where they would never do it, and you just automatically assume because they're trans or whatever the reason, or drag queen or whatever, you just automatically assume they do that. I just think to assume that when the person clearly demonstrates that that's not who they are, and it's clear. I mean, no one's really off the hook on that. Anybody can do something like that, right? But it's totally clear looking at the person. I mean, I look like a supermodel as a guy and a girl, right? And not to say supermodels can't commit crimes, but it's very unlikely, right? So to think that all people are like that or whatever, just like saying all priests, if you said all priests were like that, not all priests are. A lot of priests did actually commit those crimes, but they're not all like that. And a lot of people value priests and look up to priests, and priests aren't allowed to get married, which I mean, not maybe now it's different, but priests aren't allowed to get married. So it makes it harder for them to be like, looking for a solid relationship with an adult because they can't get married, right? And I talk about Roman Catholicism, right? So, I mean, and that's okay. Some priests doesn't mean all priests are guilty of that, right? But if a priest isn't allowed to get married, and like trans people are, right? So, if a trans, not that you have to be married to not commit a crime, but if you're a trans person, you're allowed to get married, you're allowed to do whatever, right? So, I mean, the thing is, I would assume most trans people are very well educated. I'm not well educated, they might not be, but they're very well aware that people say these things even though it doesn't make any sense. And it clearly doesn't make sense with most trans people, right? But Lily Tino, and I'm not saying Lily Tino did anything, because I don't really pay much attention to Lily Tino, but like some of these people that people say that I'm like or whatever, they've done crazy things, right? And I'm not saying that they've done them because I don't want to accuse anybody of anything, but and there's nothing wrong with that. Like I think it's funny that someone will be like, "Oh, you're like this person," Miranda Sings, right? I'm like, well, I mean, if she did a crime, I don't know if she did, but if she did a crime and I'm like her, I do kind of look like her actually, but I would never commit those crimes, right? But I just think it's funny that people think I look like her or whatever, right? I don't associate the part about the whole bad thing that they say connecting to the bad things that she does, right? Because at the end of the day, saying you're like a celebrity in looks is a good thing, even if the celebrity is a bad person or breaks the law. But you separate the law and the situation that they're accused of from their look, because saying that I look like them, right? And some of the people might be intentionally saying, "Oh, you have Miranda Sings," because they're like, she's bad, right? But I mean, I disassociate that, because I think, well, I mean, I think too, and I think most people are joking, right? But anyway, thank you guys. All right, I know. Au revoir.